还是得要4B，还是得要扫码量体温。
那为什么又要多一个这样的证呢？
多一个这样证就是控制你每天出去的时间。你有的人你没有复工复产，你出去一天干嘛呢？对不对？这个就是控制你的次数。比如你早上出去了，你下午就不要出去了；你下午出去了，你晚上就不要出去了。
这个手掌大小的出入证有2种，复工复产证发给持有效单位证明的人员，凭证每天可以进出；临时出入证则给居家人员，每户1张，上面填写。
现在还招不着？不招了，不是啊，3件人了，不招了，订单少了，不招了。我没看这个放假了。
任职于湖北宜昌市儿童公园管理处的谭军，4月13号上午到宜昌市西陵区法院递状控告湖北省政府，但法院告知起诉政府要去武汉市中级法院。当晚，谭军遭到西陵区分局国保大队传唤，让他写承诺书，要求他不要再在网上发布相关材料，包括照片、截图等。
我把这个情书已经寄到武汉市中级人民法院去了，今天可能会到，他们立案之后要给我打电话的，因为目前还不知道，因为我是公职人员。13号的晚上，宜昌市公安局国保大队约谈了我，叫我不要在网上发东西了，所以说我现在就不能接受你的访问。
但是我个人分析啊，这一回家最少就要4个月，我们在8月底再见，好不好？
全部停下来啊！不要做了，这个不要做了，这种，停下来，给我停下来，停下来，我们把墙直接封掉暂时。
And later in the day, subtitled in Mandarin on Radio Free China as we blow through the firewall to get to all the Lao Baijing old 100 names in China as part of our movement to help the Chinese people get their freedom. On G News and GTV.
President Trump settled for a more gradual reopening of the American economy, one that will vary from state to state.
We're opening up our country, and we have to do that. America wants to be open, and Americans want to be open.
He unveiled a document called Opening Up America Again, a 3-phase plan for easing the current lockdowns.
Government sources say they're extremely wary about talking up exiting the shutdown for fear people relax their compliance too early. The Health Minister, Nadine Dorries, tweeted this morning, journalists should stop asking about an exit strategy. There is only one way we can exit full lockdown, and that is when we have a vaccine. There was a teleconference of G7 leaders this afternoon. Dominic Raab standing in for Boris Johnson. Mr. Raab later said China could face hard questions about the origins of the virus at some point in the future, and a very, very deep dive review of what went on.
But now a new outbreak is underway. Singapore reported 728 new cases, the biggest daily jump. Most of them are linked to cramped dormitories where low-paid migrant workers live. Japan's prime minister expanded a state of emergency to cover the entire country. The measure takes effect Friday and lasts until May 6th. Germany is one of the countries set to begin slowly easing some restrictions. Some schools will reopen in early May, but bars, restaurants, theaters, and religious services will remain closed indefinitely.
Social distancing, the washing of the hands, the doing all of those things, that is something we should do until we find a vaccine.
But today, Australian Airlines are putting planes back in the sky. This will be paid for by the federal government at a cost of $165 million, and it will mean some airline staff can go back to work. Drivers across the country can now fill up the tank for as little as $1 a litre, prices we haven't seen in almost 20 years.
$8 a litre. These are extraordinarily low prices, and they are expected to last, Ali, for at least the next few weeks.
I think it is incumbent upon China to answer those questions and to provide the information so that people can have clarity about exactly what happened.
And amazingly, just today, China has quietly updated recorded fatalities from the disease in China, going from 3,342 to 4,632 deaths. That's an increase in a single day of almost 30%. Kind of interesting, isn't it? 30% jump in fatalities from China announced today. We need transparency.
You're already seeing some people in Africa and in poorer countries saying that China should be contributing to some sort of global fund to help pay reparations for what they have gone through. But I think there'll be some tough conversations throughout the world about what needs to be done in regards to this. But I think no matter what, at this point, no matter what you may be reading in some of the articles out there by some of these people who think they know it all, here's the truth. China's reputation globally has already been badly damaged. There are plenty of countries out there that know exactly how China mishandled this, irrespective of whether this came out of that lab or not. They're not out there talking about it because their economies are not big enough to take China on directly. But the damage that China has suffered to its perception around the world is in many ways irreparable.
You know, we hear a lot of outrage. We hear people say that they don't like the fact that all of our antibiotics, most of them are made in China, that we need to, I know you've worked on this, to bring back the production of these drugs at home. And I think the American people kind of want to know when they're going to see all that actually happen, because we hear the president talk about the trade deal and how important the trade deal is and that he wants to keep that going. I mean, how can we have a relationship with this country if this is true?
Yeah. You know, over a year ago, I released a report from the Small Business Committee called Made in China 2025 and the plan to reinvigorate America's industry. And the basic premise of it was there are some things that even if they are cheaper to make somewhere else, we have to be able to make in our own country for our own security. I mean, thank God for the American farmer. Thank God we didn't outsource that. And I think you're seeing some of those things exposed now, from little swabs, nasal swabs that we need for the tests, the personal protective equipment, to the components that go into a ventilator. And then you keep going all the way to rare earth minerals, which are critical for almost all of high tech. The world is overly dependent on China in our supply chain. And yes, it's cheaper to do those things over there, but we cannot afford, from an economic and national security standpoint, to not have the industrial capacity to do things, not to mention the jobs that come with it. So that's something we should have been looking at already. I think this crisis will only accelerate.
So let's talk about, there's a change in the numbers overnight, and this gets to this, the Wall Street Journal is reporting, and I think the Washington Post reporting, and it kind of spiked up early this morning, reporting over 4,000 deaths in the United States. The number I thought I was looking at early AM was 2,300, which is still bad. The last 4 days, and I think it has surprised people, that number is not decelerating like they thought. So we've had 4 days over 2,000 and close to 2,500. But the spike up the 4,000 was, and I guess the reason nobody really knows, Johns Hopkins is reporting this now up on their site, and then other people are picking it up. But it looks like it's this controversy between, and I don't think it's much of a controversy because I just don't think you ought to do it, between the probable deaths and the actual deaths. And the difference here is that where they tested for COVID-19, for CCP virus, either on their death certificate or some sort of mechanism as the coroner does this, and that's that extra jack. I guess it's 2,000 deaths that they're principally in New York City that they're talking about, that de Blasio is talking about.
Well, I mean, this is an issue, and I think particularly in a place like New York City, there could be some budgetary issues associated with this, because if somebody is designated to have died of COVID-19, then the Fed is the backstop.
But also, too, and CNN did a package on this yesterday, where they went through, and especially in the lower income communities where folks might not have the health care coverage, or they're concerned about the cost and going, maybe they're older, maybe they already have one or two or several comorbidities that are going on, people die at home. And as they're going back through and determining what exactly it was, they're finding a lot of cases it was the coronavirus that put it over the top and actually took their life.
This is where it gets foggy, and we have expected something like this. We've been told for a couple of days that, you know, numbers, especially of people who have been dying at home, and it's not been a hospitalized death, would be added. And this is how you know the revisions of the Wuhan numbers are still a massive understatement of what's happened here, because if we are going back and saying, okay, over the last week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, we have 2,000 more deaths to add, and we're just going to lump it all onto this one day, which was overnight today.
我再告诉大家，为啥我说2.7一直没到3个？我再说一遍，这几个条件不到啊，这3道大门绝对没有打开。就是上海股市还在运作，深圳股市还在运作，香港的恒生还在运作， 港币和人民币还在那块这样的撑着改变账，不到3。我相信接下来的法律和法案把香港的地方这个改变账打掉，这个山就全面开始。战友们，你们没有意识到，你们没有感受到，香港对我们华人是多么的重要。严格讲，香港如果不重生，中国人不可能有法治和自由的到来。香港只要不是把香港的经济的擀面杖子和4大不要脸的恐惧和威胁这个问题解决，我们爆料革命成功的可能性绝对没有。我们现在据我们所了解到的，香港和大陆真正的精英，有钱的、有权的、有脑子的、有能力的，绝大多数人不是躲在深山里，就是躲到海外来。足球界、体育界、演艺界、知识界，当然包含金融界各领域，宗教界，大咖都躲到海外去了，二咖躲在了中国的山里边去了，村里边去了。只有极少数的老百姓躲在城市的公寓里。我们现在推的是什么爆料革命？我告诉大家，我最近做的最多的事情，就是让香港能得到实际上真正的保护和行政的司法的行动。我相信对香港的类似法案，在美国、欧洲即将会发生。届时，从香港的恒生指数、香港的港币进行崩塌，香港安全香港的精英会站起来发声。希望4大不要脸都变成4大英雄。藏在海外的中国的精英们也不会再这样继续等待下去，因为大家知道，都在这块等着，大家都得完。